So, welcome everyone to the second installment of this podcast, which Nicki and I have still not found a name. Albeit, Nicki, I think we brainstormed some funny ones, right? Which will probably be a podcast in itself.
We did. Maybe not all appropriate for this edition,
Yes,
but we're
exactly.
getting there.
Now, today's episode is really exciting as we have, along with Nicki and myself, our colleague Jack McCoey and Zoho's chief evangelist Raju Vegesna. So great to have everyone here. Welcome, Jack, and welcome, Raju. This should be a lot of fun. Now, interestingly enough, Nicki, Jack, and I met at Zoho's Analyst Day a couple months back in Austin, where we kind of got a chance to listen in person to Raju and Zoho's vision, their mission statement, and just kind of understand their values and how that drives product development, their roadmap, and the company culture as a whole. And two, I think from our last discussion, we kind of talked about the current reality, which we're all facing now, with sort of remote work, working from home, and how the technology has become a big part of actually supporting that and facilitating that now, from the real-time collaboration tools, from web and video conferencing stuff, team collaboration, productivity, just those sort of conversational workspaces, if you will, that provide some contextual persistence and kind of helps us to keep collaborative while we're at a distance. And so, we touched on, and we'd love to get Raju's thoughts on this too later. We touched on some of the human aspects of all this, which is something I know we will get into again with Raju, but our work lives are changing, and so I want just discuss how that's going to be changing even going forward. And so we may have thought of separate worlds, our work life and our home life, but now those worlds are kind of emerging, and this sort of pandemic and what we're going through now is making us realize how closely those worlds are. So I'll stop rambling on, and Nicki, I'll let you give some thoughts here before we let Raju speak.
Okay, yes, thank you, Dave, for that intro, and for anyone who missed the first installment, especially. So, just to take a step back, I think we're all seeing in multiple forms a lot of examples of companies who are truly stepping up and making the collaborative environment more accessible, making working from home more affordable, and ingraining that into the reality that we've all suddenly been thrown into. But when I go back to when we were all in Austin for the Zoho Analyst Day at the end of January, which is amazing to think that was really only 2 months ago, one of the first things that struck me, and I was an analyst at the time who was pretty unfamiliar with Zoho, I was stepping in quite fresh, was how deeply ingrained the passion for making businesses of all sizes succeed, especially some of those, such as in the nonprofit sector, who might be shut out of the same level of support and access to the same quality of collaborative tools as others. So my first question to pose to Raju is, how is Zoho applying the existing culture that you were cultivating anyway to this new reality? And are you offering additions beyond what you guys already sought to do as an ingrained part of your corporate culture?
Let me answer that. In Jan, we discussed an interesting point. One of the key points Sridhar, our CEO, made is how he works remotely from the farm, and how cloud can revive the rural communities out there. And we have been thinking about this problem for a long time, where how can we establish offices in remote towns and villages and contribute to the local community and the local economy? And in that context, we have always been doing that. So we have some offices in remote towns and villages in several countries, including US, Japan, and other places, in India as well. Now, we said, what if cloud plays an important role in reviving that rural work and remote work? That was end of Jan, and we have been doing some experiments. And here we are 2 months later, where remote work became essential. It's a interesting turn of events. So whatever we have been thinking is pretty much accelerated, and now we realized this is the moment. If anything, this incident, this black swan moment, will accelerate remote work. we said, why don't we take our tools, tools that we have already been using, and offer it to anyone out there. And given the current need with COVID, we have to, obviously flatten the curve, as Dr. Fauci would say. And how do we do that? We said we can offer our tools that can enable remote work and offer them for free till July 1st, so that people work remotely and they can be as productive, or at least close to be productive as they were in person. And that's what we did. So it's an interesting turn of events, but we have always been prepared for that. And it's been now 4 weeks since Zoho itself went remote, where all 8,000 of our employees were working remotely. And we said, why don't we pull together all our tools and offer it to our users? Interestingly, on one of those 3 weeks back, in Jan, an idea came out to offer a bundle with all remote tools. On Monday, the idea came out. On Tuesday, we agreed on the details. Wednesday and Thursday, we included and created the product. On Friday, we released the product called Remotely and offered it for free. And so that was a product or a bundle that was created in 1 week with everyone working remotely. And we called it Remotely. To pull together a bundle called Remotely at all. That was not even part of the thing. We decided to go remote, and we did that on Monday. That is 4 weeks back. And that is when we said, we are able to do this quickly because we had all the tools. Why don't we make these tools available to everyone else? So the idea itself came on Monday, and by Friday we were able to release the product.
That's fantastic. So are you saying then that all of your existing customers that were transferred over to remotely, or has there been a wave? I'm just wondering how it was actually physically possible to react and implement so quickly. That's very impressive.
I mean, what we had was individual products that worked independently. Like we had this tool called Zoho Meeting. We had Click for chat, audio, video conferencing, and several other tools. We had customers using each of these independently. We said, why don't we pull everything together, package them together as a bundle, and offer it? And that's essentially what Remotely was, where it adds a lot of administration and other capability that helps remote workers. So pull about 11 different tools we offered that helps remote workers and package it together. That's what we were able to pull together, and our existing customers took advantage of it. And more importantly, a lot of new customers who took advantage of it. Interestingly, the last 3 weeks or so, we've seen over 10,000 companies already on Remotely.
That's really amazing to think about, just being able to not only release the product in that or that solution in such a short period of time, but then in turn, if you're supporting that many customers on this brand new, I guess for lack of a better word, platform, how is that impacting how Zoho itself is able to function and serve? I mean, you as an organization must be undergoing the same sort of constraints and pressures as everyone else is going through.
We are, to some extent, we are better positioned than many other companies because Zoho entirely runs on Zoho. So we pretty much control all aspects of our software stack. So because we run our entire business on Zoho, we are able to quickly shift to this new approach compared to many other businesses who try to put together solutions from multiple vendors, and they don't control their tech stack. So for us, I should say it has become relatively easy. I mean, still there are some challenges with some aspects, like for the first time you have close to 1,000 people offering customer support from their respective homes. There is about 1,000 people, and remote support from their homes has never been done, even within Zoho. So there are certainly some challenges there, and it took us a few days to refine. But now it has become a smooth process, and during this process, it is a realization, and more importantly, we developed a confidence that remote work can work. You don't have to be stuck in a big campus in a big city, contributing to the local pollution and the local traffic.
Yeah, I love that tagline, whether you meant it or not to be a tagline. It sounds like one. Remote work can work, especially with a workforce I know like Zohos, which is spread out literally all over the world. And many people and organizations are focusing on the immediacy of what this means right here and right now for everyone. Do you think that kind of once this eye of the storm is over and that there's still a lot of question marks in the air, that the world will be better prepared to embrace more confidently a remote workforce with less hesitancy than maybe we were even a month or so ago?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a trigger point, and people and companies will realize that remote work is very much possible, and if anything, this is the future. We saw this as a future a while back, but this acts as a catalyst to accelerate remote work, and I really certainly hope it happens. But I think this certainly, it may not be a majority of the percentage, but even if 10-20% of companies realize, recognize, and act on it, that's a good change. But we expect this to happen.
So with this being, I guess, our certain future now, what advice, I guess, would you give to organizations now from a technical, perspective, and also just from the human aspect of, just now dealing with, a workforce that is now, virtual and in their home?
For organizations, the first thing I would say is trust. That is what they need to have for their employees. Trust your employees. I've seen some crazy things going on currently where there are some companies who ask their employees to switch on their camera, and like a 9 to 5, they have their camera on, and companies monitoring their employees. That is not trust, and I recommend avoiding those. So the first thing that any organization thinking about remote work should have is the trust on their employees. It's not a usual 9 to 5 job. So tools are secondary, but the remote work culture, mindset, all of those are primary elements to get things right. Once that trust is established, the rest is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so it's a cultural shift, right? So, and I think that this shift is probably now being forced on us. I saw one meme the other day that digital transformation is now forced on us with this pandemic. So it looks like organizations probably now have to shift to a whole different mindset than they've had before.
Absolutely, I think this shift will happen. This is going to last a long time. We are still in the early stages, but I expect this to accelerate remote work.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard any success stories or like immediate relief stories, just even casually, from any of your customers or new organizations who have benefited in this time of crisis? Just be kind of curious. I'm always looking for kind of those real life nuggets to bring the dialogue to life.
Absolutely, it's interesting. We have seen some schools and colleges adopt remotely for complete remote education purposes. We are seeing and hearing from a lot of those customers in there. We have seen remote training sessions happen as well. We have this tool called Showtime, which is remote onboarding, and we have seen it being successful. Interestingly, even within Zoho, I've noticed that the day we went remote, it was the starting day for several of our employees. We had 10 employees in Mexico that was starting on the day we went remote globally.
Okay.
It was so they never got to meet everyone, and here we are 4 weeks later. The entire onboarding of these employees happened remotely. And we've seen a very similar pattern in with our customers as well. They have used some of these tools for remote training. We have seen a lot of people conduct remote webinars. We have seen few people conduct remote events, virtual events. So there is a wide range of usage across the board. The usage of Zoho meeting, shot up by